Good evening. Welcome to Acadia After Dark. I'm your host, Reverend Redbeard. Some of you may or may not know that Maine happens to be a UFO hotspot. According to the National UFO Reporting Center, there have been 28 reported sightings in Maine in 2024 alone. This week we discuss some of the more mysterious UFO encounters in my backyard. First, we're diving into one of Maine's most intriguing and controversial UFO encounters, the Allagash Abduction. This extraordinary event, which took place in 1976, has left an indelible mark on the lives of the men involved and continues to be a topic of fascination and debate. So settle in as we explore this incredible story in detail. In August of 1976, four friends, Chuck Rack, Charlie Foltz, and twin brothers Jack and Jim Weiner, embarked on a 2-week canoeing and camping trip in the remote Allagash Wilderness Waterway in northern Maine. These young men, students at the Massachusetts College of Art and Design, were seeking adventure and tranquility in the great outdoors. On the night of August 26th, while fishing on the Eagle Lake, they witnessed something that would change their lives forever. The men planned on spending 10 days canoeing and fishing along the rivers and ponds around Eagle Lake. The only way into the remote patch of wilderness was by small aircraft, and on arrival, they found the conditions less than ideal for their plans. A strong wind picked up late into the first day, which grounded them until the following night. It was during this time that they encountered another group, who had also been stranded by the unexpected weather. The people were searching for two teen boys that had been separated from them unexpectedly. On hearing this, the four friends decided to help in what way they could, and so they began scanning the lake with their lights, hoping to spot any sign of the teens. It was during this that they saw a strange glowing light in the distance that defied explanation. Before any of them could really get a good look at it, the light winked out. The following day, the men wished the group well and set off on their journey upriver, in search of a camping spot on the northern end of Eagle Lake called Pillsbury Island. Once there, the guys built a large bonfire and got ready to head out in search of fish before the night set in. They pedaled towards a small inlet northeast of the campsite, named Smith Brook. They had only just dropped their lines in the water when Chuck noticed something rising out of the trees above the far shore. A large, bright, oval-shaped object appeared above the trees, emitting a pulsating light that illuminated the entire area. At first, Chuck thought it was the moon, but it was far too large and bright. One of the men described the light as moving across the object, as if it had a life of its own, and the eerie silence of the craft made them feel it was not of this world. The men were both fascinated and terrified by the sight. It was about 200 yards away and hovering silently above the tree line. Charlie points his flashlight at the object and flashes the SOS signal, at which point the craft began to move towards their boat. As they continued to observe the object, a beam of light suddenly descended from it. The men had panicked and began paddling, but the craft was too fast. Despite their best efforts, they would not be able to outrun its searching beam. They felt a strange sensation and lost consciousness. Suddenly, they found themselves back at their campsite, thinking it had only been around 20 minutes or so. But their campfire had burned down to embers, indicating that several hours had passed. The men were confused but exhausted, so they decided to simply go to bed and sort things out in the morning. The following day, while discussing the events over breakfast, the men could not account for any of the missing time. It wasn't until years later, in 1988, that Jack and Jim Weiner began experiencing recurring nightmares about the encounter. It began with Jim having an accident at work that left him with brain damage causing epileptic seizures. Shortly after this, he began having vivid and terrifying dreams almost every night. He originally attributed them to his medication and health conditions, but was surprised to find out he was not the only person sharing in these nightly terrors. Jim's wife Mary was talking with Jack one day, when he happened to mention having a difficult time sleeping. Mary was shocked by the similarities in these vivid dreams, filled with images of a brightly lit room, shadowy figures, and a sense of helplessness. Desperate for answers, the men decided to undergo hypnosis to recover their repressed memories. They don't know what to do. I think I'm going to come after them. I feel like I want to. I feel like I want to. First one that comes near me, I'm going to throttle them. I don't like these things. I don't care where they come from. They shouldn't be doing this to people. During the hypnosis, conducted by renowned UFO researcher Raymond E. Fowler, the men recalled being taken aboard a spacecraft and subjected to various tests by aliens. They described the aliens as having large dark eyes and a vaguely humanoid appearance. It's like a doctor's office. I get that. It's cold like a doctor's office is cold. They put the panel over your chest. Then they scrape your arms and your chest, your legs and your thighs. We shouldn't be here. I just keep thinking, I want to be back in the canoe. The sessions revealed that the men had been abducted for several hours, during which time they were examined and experimented on. Each man was hypnotized separately and described very similar events. They're right there. Their face is right in my face. I don't know why. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what they want. They're saying things. In my head they're saying, don't be afraid. They say, do what we say. Just do what we say. The Allagash abduction had profound and lasting effects on the men. Both Jack and Jim Weiner experienced recurring nightmares and struggled with anxiety and fear. The experience left them feeling vulnerable and frightened, particularly when they were alone or in remote areas. The men's lives were also impacted on a personal and social level. They faced skepticism and disbelief from friends, family, co-workers, and the general public, leading to strained relationships and feelings of isolation. Despite the challenges, some of the men, particularly Jim Weiner, became advocates for UFO research and awareness, participating in interviews, documentaries, and conferences to share their story. Their story was later written about in the book, The Allagash Abductions, Undeniable Evidence of Alien Intervention, which was penned by Raymond E. Fowler himself. After witnessing the strange light, the men reported their sighting to a ranger the next day. However, the ranger dismissed their story, attributing the lights to a grand opening of a hardware store in the nearby town of Millinocket. Unsatisfied with this explanation, the men continued their trip but did not discuss the possibility of an abduction until years later. During the investigation, the men underwent multiple polygraph tests which indicated that they were telling the truth about their experiences. In interviews conducted years later, the men described the deep impact this incident had on their lives and personalities. Each of the men reportedly developed obsessions with geometry, mathematics, and other sciences which had not been of interest to them before the incident. Some skeptics will point out that the UFO phenomena was a common trend in sci-fi at the time the men were being interviewed, and perhaps their descriptions of events had been influenced by popular culture's depictions of aliens and flying saucers. In a 2016 interview, Chuck Rack went on record admitting that the abduction part of the story was made up, and that he went along with the narrative for financial gain. However, he does admit to seeing a series of strange lights over a period of a couple of days during the camping trip. The other men reportedly maintain the truthfulness of their statements on the encounter to this day. The Allagash abduction remains one of the most famous and compelling UFO abduction cases in Maine's history. Whether you believe in the extraterrestrial encounters or not, the story of these four men serves as a reminder of the profound impact that unexplained experiences can have on people's lives. Their journey from skepticism to advocacy highlights the complexity of dealing with the unknown and the importance of seeking answers, no matter how elusive they may be. Our next case takes us back to the summer of 1952, a year marked by a significant surge in UFO sightings across the entire United States. Among these reports, the Loring Air Force Base sighting in Limestone, Maine, stands out as particularly intriguing. On the night of July 27, 1952, radar operators at Loring Air Force Base detected unusual blips on their radar screens. These blips indicated the presence of fast-moving objects that did not correspond to any known aircraft. The objects were described as very bright and moving at high speeds, displaying erratic flight patterns that left the radar operators puzzled. Concerned by what they were seeing, the radar operators reported the sightings to their superiors. The U.S. Air Force launched an investigation, interviewing the radar operators and attempting to track the objects using both radar and visual observation. Despite their efforts, the objects remained unidentified. The sighting at Loring Air Force Base was part of a larger wave of UFO reports that summer, which eventually led to the establishment of Project Blue Book. This U.S. government project aimed to investigate the UFO sightings and determine if they posed any threat to national security. It also sought to collect data on these mysterious occurrences, hoping to find logical explanations for them. The Loring Air Force Base sighting also contributed to the broader UFO phenomena that captured the public's imagination in the 1950s. Media coverage of the sightings fueled public interest and speculation, leading to the formation of the Robertson Panel. The scientific community reviewed UFO reports and recommended measures to reduce public interest in the subject, aiming to prevent potential hysteria. The Loring sighting remains one of the most well-documented UFO encounters in Maine, playing a significant role in the history of UFO investigations in the United States. It serves as a reminder of how unexplained phenomena can capture our curiosity and challenge our understanding of the world. Our next story brings us to a more recent encounter, the 2014 Portland Lights sighting, which captivated both residents and UFO enthusiasts alike. On the night of August 10, 2014, a man named James was out for a walk with his dog in Portland, Maine. As he strolled into the clear night sky, something unusual caught his attention. A group of bright white lights moving rapidly across the horizon. These lights were unlike anything he had ever seen, brighter than stars and traveling at an incredible rate of speed. James watched in awe as the lights moved faster than satellites, which are a relatively common sight in Maine skies, skimming the tree-lined horizon with an almost otherworldly agility. Suddenly, the lights changed formation, pivoted 90 degrees, and streaked away in just 5 seconds. The abrupt maneuver left James stunned, and even his dog continued staring at the sky where the lights had vanished, seemingly sensing the anomaly. Seeking answers, James reported the sighting to the National UFO Reporting Center. He provided a detailed account, describing the lights as brighter than any aircraft he had seen and emphasizing their speed and maneuverability. His report added a new entry to the extensive database of UFO sightings in Maine. While there were no photographs or videos of the Portland lights, James' detailed description and the credibility of his report drew significant attention. The sighting added to Maine's reputation as a hotspot for UFO activity and sparked discussions about what could have caused such an unusual display. Some speculated about experimental military aircraft, while others leaned towards the possibility of extraterrestrial visitors. As we continue our journey through Maine's most fascinating UFO encounters, let's fast forward to present day, where Maine continues to be a hotspot for high strangeness. Recently, several notable sightings have been reported, each adding to the state's fascinating history of unexplained phenomena. Our first sighting takes us to Wyndham, where two separate reports of UFOs came in earlier this year. Witnesses described seeing bright, fast-moving lights in the sky that changed direction abruptly, defying conventional explanation. These sightings were documented by the National UFO Reporting Center, adding to the extensive list of UFO encounters in Maine. Next, we move to Booth Bay. In 2024, residents were stunned by a series of lights moving in a coordinated pattern across the night sky. These lights, described as brighter than stars and moving at incredible speeds, left witnesses in awe and sparked local discussions about their origin. In Waterboro, another intriguing sighting was reported. A witness saw a large glowing object hovering in the sky. The circular-shaped object emitted a bright light before suddenly shooting upwards and disappearing from view. The sudden and rapid movement of the object added an element of mystery to the sighting. And not far from there, in Naples, a resident observed a group of white lights moving rapidly across the sky. These lights were brighter than any aircraft and moved in a coordinated pattern before vanishing. The sighting was reported and documented, contributing to Maine's reputation as a place of frequent UFO activity. And finally, in Searsport, witnesses described seeing a bright, oval-shaped object moving erratically across the sky. The object was visible for several minutes, captivating those who saw it before it suddenly vanished. These sightings from 2024 serve as a reminder that the skies above Maine continue to hold mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Each report, whether it comes from a small town or a bustling city, adds to the growing body of evidence that compels us to look up and wonder, what's really out there? As we wrap up tonight's episode of Acadia After Dark, let's take a moment to reflect on the intriguing UFO encounters we've explored. From the Allagash abduction to the Loring Air Force Base sighting, the Portland Lights, and the numerous reports from across Maine in 2024, each story adds a layer of mystery and wonder to the rich tapestry of our skies. While these encounters captivate our imaginations and inspire countless theories, it's important to consider the most likely explanations. Many UFO sightings can be attributed to misidentifications of conventional aircraft, drones, satellites, or even experimental military projects. Natural phenomena such as meteors, ball lightning, or unusual atmospheric conditions can also account for many of these sightings. Moreover, psychological factors and our innate tendency to see patterns in randomness can lead to perception of UFOs, sometimes even causing mass sightings. And yes, a few cases may involve deliberate hoaxes or misinformation, adding to the complexity of separating fact from fiction. Also, in the era of AI, it can be even more difficult to identify real evidence, since any image can be altered by someone with a smartphone or a computer. Yet despite these explanations, some sightings do remain unexplained, continuing to fuel our curiosity and wonder. The enduring mystery of UFO phenomena reminds us of the vastness of our universe and the limits of our current understanding. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, the stories we've shared tonight challenge us to keep our minds open and our eyes on the skies. So as you go about your daily life, take a moment to look up and ponder the possibility. After all, the truth might just be out there, waiting to be discovered. That's all for tonight's episode of Acadia After Dark. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Maine's most fascinating UFO sightings. I'm the Reverend Redbeard. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, keep watching the skies.